This is not a prediction. I am not here to tell you what might happen in 2026. I am here to show you it's happening right now. There is a $100 trillion event occurring in the global economy right now. It is not a crash. It is not a bubble popping, and it is not a conspiracy theory. It is a mathematical inevitability that has been slowly executing in the background of your life for the last 36 months. We call it the reset. But reset implies that everything stops and starts over. That's not what this is. This is a redistribution. It is a slow, methodical transfer of wealth from one group of people to another, from the savers to the debtors, from the workers to the asset holders, from you to the system itself. If you have looked at your bank account recently and felt a strange disconnect, if the numbers are going up, but your life feels smaller, you are already feeling the effects. Most people are waiting for a loud noise. They are waiting for the stock market to drop 50% in a day. They are waiting for the wrong signal. The reset doesn't make a sound. It doesn't make headlines. It just quietly erodes everything you thought you owned until one day you realize the game has changed and you were playing by the old rules. When we hear the word crisis, we are conditioned to think of 2008. We think of panic. We think of red arrows pointing down. We think of banks locking their doors. That is the Hollywood version of a financial crisis. It is dramatic, sudden, and obvious. Because we are looking for that explosion, we are completely blind to the implosion. The core misunderstanding of the modern economy is the belief that a collapse must look like a crash. But history tells us a different story. The most effective wealth transfers are not sudden events. They are structural shifts. Think of it like a block of ice. A crash is taking a hammer and smashing the ice. It shatters. Everyone sees it. It's loud. The reset we are in now, it is simply turning up the temperature in the room by 2 degrees. The ice doesn't shatter, it melts, it looks the same for a long time, it holds its shape, but structurally it is turning into liquid, it is changing state. And by the time you realize the ice is gone, the water has already flowed away. Right now, the stock market is near all-time highs. Unemployment is statistically low, GDP is positive. On paper, there is no crisis, this is the camouflage. The system is designed to keep the nominal numbers, the face value numbers, looking healthy. Because as long as the stock market is green, you assume the economy is working. But ask yourself, if the economy is working, why is the average savings rate hitting historic lows? Why is credit card debt at all-time highs? Why does a 6-figure salary feel like a minimum wage struggle? The answer is simple. The numbers are going up, but the value is leaking out. You are running on a treadmill that is moving slightly faster than you can run. You aren't crashing, you are eroding. And that erosion is the mechanism of the reset. So how does this $100 trillion reset actually work? It is not magic, it is engineering. To understand it, you have to look at the global balance sheet. The world is drowning in debt. Governments, corporations, and households collectively owe over $300 trillion. The United States government alone is adding $1 trillion in debt every 100 days. When debt reaches these levels, a government has only 3 choices. Choice number 1, default. They simply say, we aren't paying. This causes a total collapse of the banking system. It's the Mad Max scenario. No government wants this. It destroys their power. Choice number 2, austerity. They stop spending, they raise taxes, they pay off the debt the hard way. This causes a massive depression. Politicians lose elections. Riots happen in the streets. No government wants this. Choice number 3, financial repression. This is the reset. If you can't pay the debt and you can't default on the debt, you inflate the debt away. Here's the mechanism in plain English. The government and the central banks keep interest rates below the real rate of inflation. Let's say inflation is actually 5%, regardless of what the CPI says. And let's say the interest rate on government debt is 4%. That means every single year, the real value of that debt decreases by 1%. It doesn't sound like much. But over a decade, that 1% gap transfers trillions of dollars of purchasing power from the lenders, the savers, the bondholders, the people with cash, to the borrowers, the government, the corporations, the people with assets. This is why it's called a reset. It resets the value of money to match the level of debt. They are debasing the currency to save the system, but there is a casualty in this war. The casualty is the wage earner. In this mechanism, there are clear winners and losers. If you own assets, houses, stocks, gold, businesses, you are the winner. Why? Because as the currency loses value, the price of your assets goes up to compensate. Your house didn't get better, it didn't get bigger, it just takes more worthless dollars to buy it. You feel rich because the number went up. If you own currency, savings accounts, fixed income pensions, or if you rely solely on a salary, you are the loser. Your wages are sticky. They move slow. Inflation is fluid. It moves fast. The gap between your wage growth and the asset price growth is the wealth that is being stolen from you. This is not a conspiracy. This is known as the Cantillon Effect. The people closest to the money printer, the banks, the government, the large asset holders, get the new money first before prices rise. The people furthest from the printer, the wage earners, get the money last after prices have already risen. The $100 trillion reset is simply the acceleration of this effect. It is a mechanism designed to liquidate the middle class to keep the sovereign debt bubble from bursting. Wealth is not being destroyed, it is migrating. It is moving from your checking account into the asset prices of the ultra-wealthy. If this is happening on such a massive scale, why aren't there riots? Why isn't this the only thing on the news? Because human beings are biologically wired to ignore it. We are evolutionarily designed to react to immediate threats. A tiger in the bushes, a fire in the cave, a crash in the market. We are terrible at noticing slow compounding changes. This is known as creeping normality. You don't notice that a candy bar got 10% smaller. You don't notice that the quality of your shirt got 10% worse. You don't notice that your rent went up 5% while your service got worse. You adjust, you adapt, you lower your standard of living just a fraction day by day. The system relies on the money illusion. This is a psychological trick where people confuse the face value of money with its purchasing power. If your boss gives you a 3% raise, you feel happy. You think, I am making more money. But if real inflation is 6%, you just took a 3% pay cut. But because the number on the paycheck got bigger, your brain registers it as a win. The reset hides behind this illusion. As long as the stock market hits new highs, the average person thinks the economy is booming. They don't realize that the stock market isn't going up because companies are 20% more productive. It's going up because the dollar is worth 20% less. The Venezuelan stock market was the best performing market in the world right before their currency collapsed. Why? Because everyone was dumping cash to buy anything that wasn't cash. We are seeing a mild version of that same phenomenon. The everything bubble is actually the currency collapse in disguise. Most people don't see the reset because they are looking at the price tag, not the value. And by the time they realize the difference, the transfer is permanent. Take a moment. Forget the trillions. Forget the economic theories. Look at your own life. Does it feel harder than it did 5 years ago? Does it feel like you are working harder, optimizing more, cutting more corners, yet your savings account isn't moving? Do you look at house prices and feel a pit in your stomach, realizing that the goalpost has been moved so far that you might never reach it? That feeling is not in your head. And more importantly, it is not your fault. You have been gaslit. They told you that if you worked hard, saved your money, and put it in the bank, you would get ahead. That was true in 1980. It is not true today. In a reset, savers are the victims. The realization you need to have right now is that the game has changed, but you are still playing by the old rule book. You are trying to win a game of Monopoly where the banker is allowed to print money and buy the properties before you even roll the dice. The reset is the transition from an economy based on production to an economy based on asset inflation. If you are waiting for prices to go back to normal, you are going to wait forever. Normal is gone. The 2019 prices are never coming back. The dollar you hold today is the strongest it will ever be for the rest of your life. This sounds terrifying. It sounds bleak, but it is actually the most empowering realization you can have. Because once you admit that the reset is real, you can stop fighting the current and start swimming with it. You can stop wondering why it's happening and start asking how to position yourself. The people who realized this in 2020 made fortunes. The people who realized this in 2008 made fortunes. The reset doesn't destroy wealth, it moves it. And it moves it to the people who understand the mechanism. I want to leave you with a final perspective. It is easy to look at this $100 trillion reset and feel angry, to feel like the system is broken. But the harsh truth is, the system isn't broken. It is functioning exactly as it was designed to function. A fiat currency system based on debt must eventually devalue the currency to service the debt. It is a feature, not a bug. The reset is simply the system protecting itself at your expense. I cannot tell you what to buy. I am not a financial advisor. But I can tell you what to watch. Stop watching the daily fluctuations of the stock market. Stop watching the political theater of who is in the White House. Start watching the bond market. Start watching the liquidity flows. Start watching the purchasing power of your hour of labor. The era of passive investing, of just blindly putting money in a 401k and hoping for the best, is ending. The era of the active observer has begun. You need to understand the difference between money and currency. You need to understand the difference between price and value. The reset has already started. Most people will wake up to it in 5 years when it is too late. You have woken up to it today. There is a massive gap between knowing something is wrong and knowing what to do about it. On this channel, we explore that gap. We dissect the machine so you don't get crushed by the gears. I don't sell fear, I sell clarity. Because in a world of illusion, clarity is the most valuable asset you can own. The transfer is happening. The only question left is, are you going to be on the receiving end or the donating end? Subscribe. Pay attention, and I'll see you in the next one.